Hi everyone, my name is Steve. This past Monday, I just passed this AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate Level exam. So I'd like to take a few minutes to make a video to document my thoughts and my feelings about this exam and share how I prepare for this exam, as my memory is still very fresh. So after you pass the exam, you're going to get a digital certificate. I remember I passed it on Monday, and the second day, they said it's going to take 3 or 5 business days, but it's usually pretty quick. I passed it on Monday, and then I got my certificate on the second day, on Tuesday. So let me just quickly log in and show you guys my certificate and how it looks like. Now I click certification. Go to your account. So here you can see all of the badges that I have received after I pass each exam. The last one is this one that we are talking about right now, which is AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate Level. The previous 3, they are ordered by the order that I received it. The first one is the most foundational one, the easiest one, which is Certified Cloud Practitioner. The second one is Certified Solutions Architect Associate. The third one is Certified Developer Associate. All of these, I have at least made one video to talk about how I prepare for that. So I'll put a link here. You can just click to take a look. Hopefully those are going to be helpful for you if you're preparing for those. But today we'll be focusing on this SysOps Admin Associate level. Now let's go back. So the agenda of this video is going to be, first, I'll be briefly mentioning about the prerequisites in my mind that you should have in order to successfully take this exam. And then we'll talk about the breakdown, for example, different domains that this exam is trying to assess your knowledge of. And then I'll talk about how we can prepare and actually how I prepare using this method to pass this exam. First is learn by reading. There are quite a lot of very useful and helpful papers that you can read. Second is how you can really learn that by exploring, by getting your hands dirty to build things using your own AWS console, using your own AWS resources. And in the end, I'll also share some of the notes that I made during my study, so that hopefully you guys can find it helpful. And there's one more very great resources that I have used to help me prepare for this SysOps Admin Associate Level exam is WizLabs again. WizLabs.com. This is a very great resource. For example, this one, SysOps Admin Associate, I took this new free test, and then I took one practice test, and then I took all of these 3 section tests. For example, AWS Config, which I'm just going to talk about later in this video, and then storage and data management, monitoring and reporting. Remember, all of these the domains that will be covered very heavily during this entire SysOps Admin Associate Level exam. So WizLabs has these great section tests to help you dive deep all of these AWS services to assess your knowledge. If you don't know, to see what are your blind spots. If you don't know this about this service, just go study that, play around with that. And also they have labs. So I would highly recommend this. It's also very important to notice that if you fail for the first time, like say for this one, I failed, I got only 60%. Don't feel frustrated. Don't feel disappointed, because this is your learning process. If you learn something that you didn't know, good, then you know this is something that you need to work on, right? So it's fine. This is just a learning process. So I would highly recommend this. Take a look at WizLabs before you go to the exam. Otherwise, it's just not going to be a very good use of your time and money. First, the prerequisites for this exam, I would say you have some IT experiences, at least a couple of years of IT experiences. That's what AWS recommends. If you don't have any IT experiences, I wouldn't suggest you take this exam. You might want to take AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam to get yourself familiarized with all of these cloud concepts and also the AWS concepts. You need to have the basic knowledge about computers, networking, operations stuff. Second is software engineer or systems engineer industry experiences. This will turn out to be very helpful as well. If you have really worked in these fields, then you really understand when you are asked a question during the exam, you could really connect the dots in your mind to piece a full picture so that you can find the correct answer to your question. Third is preferably AWS Solutions Architect Associate certificate. Hopefully you have passed this exam and earned this certificate already. That'd be preferable, or at least you should have AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner this certificate. As I said, this is a foundational level certificate just to prove that you have the basic foundations of IT, of AWS, of cloud operations. Without this, I would say it's kind of meaningless to study and prepare for SysOps admin exam because it's really building on top of all of these foundational blocks. So if you don't have all of this knowledge in mind, it's kind of very difficult, or it's pointless to prepare and study for this exam. Now let's talk about the breakdown of this exam. There are a total of 7 domains. Number 1 domain is the most heavy domain, which is monitoring and reporting. As you can imagine, this is SysOps, system operations admin. So you need to really understand how to monitor and how to report in an AWS environment. This takes 20% of the total exam. So 20% of the questions will be focusing on monitoring and reporting. Second domain is high availability, HA. As you can imagine, one of the great benefits of using AWS, of using the cloud, is to provide high availability. You don't need to worry about single point failure, right? If you have a database which is hosted in the backyard of your home, if that one goes down, or if PG&E goes down in your backyard, then your entire database is down. But moving to the cloud, it provides such a great benefit, which is high availability. For example, multi-AZ, right? There's read replica for your RDS database, right? These are great benefits. These are the reasons why people are moving to AWS. So you need to understand that as well. This takes 8% of the entire exam. Domain 3 is deployment and provisioning. As a SysOps admin, you definitely need to understand how to deploy things and how to roll things back and how to provision instances, right? This takes 14%. 4 is storage and data management. Of course, there's so many different types of storage gateway, S3, Glacier. Which one suits for which use case? You need to have a very good understanding of that. Then data management. How do you view data? When do you use Amazon Athena? When do you use Amazon QuickSight? For data management, how do you store all of these data? When you use S3, when you use DynamoDB, when you use Redshift, when you use RDS. All of these are questions that you want to understand. Domain 5 is security and compliance. This is a very key component. Security is the very top topic of everything that you build. Think about, if things are not secure, how come CIA will be willing to move to AWS, right? You really want to understand how to build your application in a very secure and compliant way. It takes 18% total. Next one is networking, 14%. Everything needs to interact with the other part of the system, right? Your database needs to talk to your web server. Your web server needs to interact with the internet traffic, right? How do you configure all of your components interact with each other through different networking routes? You want to understand that. For sure, there are questions going to probing your knowledge and your experiences on networking. Last one is automation and optimization. That takes 12%. Manual work is not rewarded. On the other hand, you want to automate things as much as possible. Automation is the best thing, right? You want to minimize your manual work as much as possible and automate things as much as possible. And how can we optimize that? There are a total of big 7 domains that you want to focus your attention on. Then how to prepare? Number 1, I would say you want to spend a lot of time doing quite some good readings. For example, AWS white papers. Almost every single service that AWS launches, it has a white paper, right? Those are very good. Take a good look. And then there's also AWS Service Developer Guide. Almost every single service, AWS publishes a developer guide. For example, DynamoDB, S3. How do you call their API? You call which API to serve which purpose, or you configure which parameter in the API call in the CLI command to serve which purpose, right? And then API docs, general reference. And there's also a lot of very good AWS YouTube tech talks. For example, the one that talks about DynamoDB deep dive. I really like that one. That's a very good tech talk about DynamoDB. Similar to various other AWS services, you can always find very good YouTube tech talks to help you understand and also to help you deep dive. There are 3 levels of classes, 200, 300, and 400 level courses. So first, I would say go with the easy ones. Once you have a better understanding and you have some hands-on experiences building things using DynamoDB, S3, Redis, then you can go deeper to have a better understanding. Next one is, I would say, study by exploring, be a builder. We are developers, so try to build something with your own hands. Instead of just reading docs, you want to build something and get your hands dirty. This is the quickest and the way that could leave you the best impression. You are not going to easily forget what you had just built. So all of the bugs that you have fixed, you have really spent time to fix, to debug, how you piece different AWS services together to really launch a website, launch an app, launch an analytics application, right? After you have really spent time to build things using AWS services, resources, you'll have a better understanding and you can hardly forget any one of them. That's my tip, how you can prepare for this exam, which of course it applies to all AWS exams, not only this SysOps admin exam. Next, I'll share some of my notes. In this video, I'm going to talk about these 6 services. All of these 6 services mentioned here in this video, I guarantee you 100% you're going to get at least 1 question in your real SysOps exam. Many of these services, you'll get at least 2 or 3 or even 5 questions in your SysOps exam, because all of these are very key critical to a daily SysOps admin work. I'll just quickly share some of the notes that I have jotted down. Apparently they are not comprehensive, but just some of the key notes that I feel I didn't know, or those were my blind spots, so I just jotted them down. And by no means that means these notes I'm going to share with you guys are going to be comprehensive. No, I don't mean that. Still, you need to study a lot by using your own time. I'm just sharing some notes that I jotted down that I didn't know. So all the things that I knew before I started preparing for this exam, I just skipped that. So that's things to keep in mind. First, let's talk about AWS Config. This is, I would say, at least 2 questions would be probing your knowledge about AWS Config in this SysOps admin exam. Spend some good amount of time studying this, understand what is AWS Config. So first, AWS Config is a resource inventory. It tracks your configuration history and configuration change notifications to enable security and governance. It uses a configuration recorder to detect and capture changes made on AWS resources. And then also key to note that AWS Config is a reactive approach. And then there's AWS Config Aggregator. So for multiple account, multi-region data aggregation, AWS Config uses aggregator to collect the data from all accounts in all various regions. These accounts that are not part of an AWS organization need to be individually added or invited so that aggregator can be authorized to collect data from these accounts. One more note about AWS Config is that AWS Config Rules can look for any desirable or undesirable condition. For example, these 3 are the typical use cases. AWS Config Rules can ensure that every instance is associated with at least 1 security group. Or it can ensure that EC2 instances are launched in the particular VPC that are properly tagged. It can ensure that port 22, which is usually for SSH, is not open in any production security group. You might get questions or similar questions to ask, how do you make sure that an RDS instance or cluster is multi-AZ enabled? How can you do that? You can use AWS Config. There is a rule, a managed rule, which AWS provides, which is RDS multi-AZ support. You can use this rule to check. Or otherwise, you can use Trusted Advisor, which is a AWS service that we covered in AWS in the very first exam that I took, which is called AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. Trusted Advisor is a very cool service. You can tell whether an RDS is multi-AZ enabled or not. And what else? How does, for example, how does AWS Config charge you? Remember, nothing is free. You have to pay at the end of the day, right? When you build your services on top of the cloud, it doesn't mean that resources are free. No, nothing is storage, compute, networking, nothing is free. So does AWS Config. But how do they charge you? It's built by the total number of active config rules. Remember, it's active. If this rule is not actively being used, then I don't think they're going to charge you. So remember that. And also by the number of configuration items. So these two things combined, that is basically how AWS Config is going to charge you, by the total number of config rules and the number of configuration items. Remember, there are two types of AWS Config rules. One is managed. The AWS managed rules are predefined. They are customizable rules that AWS Config uses to evaluate whether your AWS resources comply with the common best practices. For example, right now, you might get a question asked, to evaluate your S3 Glacier whether it's in compliance, you use a customized rule, right? Because right now, currently, S3 Glacier is not supported on AWS Config Managed rules. Take a look at all of these in AWS white papers, then you'll have a better understanding. There's AWS Config FAQ, definitely skim through that, very helpful. Next service that I'd like to talk about today is AWS Systems Manager. This exam is SysOps, so apparently you need to know this service. I didn't know this service before, so in order to prepare for this exam, I learned this service. For example, how do you set up a systems manager in your on-premises data center? There are 4 steps. First, you need to create an IAM role. So you see all of these services, they are intertwined. You can not just learn one service in isolation. It's guaranteed there are questions that combine different services together. That's just the nature of the business. You cannot just build an application, a web app, or a data analytics application by using one AWS service. It's impossible, right? So this is just testing the real use case, the real scenario. That's the first step. Second step is you want to install a TLS certificate on your servers in your own local data center. And then third one is you want to create a managed instance activation for servers in your data center. The last one is that you can download and install Systems Manager agent on servers in your data center. Play around with Systems Manager using your own AWS console. Play around with that, you'll have a better understanding. Another note that I made is how do you keep all EC2 instances in the predefined state? In this case, you can use AWS Systems Manager document, which defines the actions that Systems Manager performs on your managed instances on your behalf. How cool is that? And also in this case, what we can do is that we can use AWS Systems Manager State Manager command document. This is something that's worth taking a look. I put a link here. Third topic I want to cover today is Amazon Inspector. Amazon Inspector is an automated security. Remember, it's talking about security. It's assessing your security service that helps you test the network accessibility of your Amazon EC2 instances and the security state of your applications running on the instances. That's what Amazon Inspector does. How do you make Amazon Inspector automatically installed as part of the Amazon EC2 installation process? You can use an Amazon Linux army with Amazon Inspector, which has built-in Amazon Inspector agent. Cool as that, very easy, very straightforward. You can just use the army that has Amazon Inspector built in. And also take a look at the FAQs of Amazon Inspector. And then we'll talk about the fourth topic that I'd like to cover is CloudFormation. Remember, this is nothing new. We have gone through CloudFormation in the very beginning of our AWS certification journey, which is Certified Cloud Practitioner. And then second one, Solutions Architect Associate. Third one, Developer Associate. We have gone through CloudFormation multiple times. But still, I found something new when I studied for SysOps Admin Associate exam. So this is one of the notes that I jotted down, which is, let's take a look. How can you check the stack is only successful when the software package gets installed successfully? What can we do? We can use cfn-signal helper script. This is a script that can be used for this purpose. If you don't know that, that's something new to me. After going through Wiz Labs, after going through the AWS white papers, I found this is something new. That's cool. So take a note. Another note that I took is deletion policy. If you have hands-on experiences, this is nothing new to me. But unfortunately for me, I didn't really use CloudFormation too much in my day-to-day dev life. So this is something new. So I just took a note, which makes total sense. For S3, the deletion policy, if you want to keep it after your CloudFormation stack is gone, you should set the deletion policy to be retained. But for RDS, you should set the deletion policy to be snapshot, which makes total sense. Snapshot for RDS database and retain for S3 buckets. Default policy is just delete, this is the default option if you don't specify, which means when the CloudFormation stack is gone, all of the resources associated with this stack will be deleted as well. That's just by design, how CloudFormation is designed. The fifth one I'd like to talk about is CloudWatch. I would say this is only next to or equivalent important to AWS Config, because for this exam, SysOps admin exam, this is just how critical, how important it is. Again, I'm just making a few notes that was new to me when I was preparing for this SysOps admin exam. So by no means this is a complete list of notes for each of the services that I'm mentioning here. I'm going to put notes down in the description box below as well. Metric math. This is something new to me. If you want to create CloudWatch graphs, query multiple metrics and display a new graph based on the math expression you require, you can take a look at metric math. This is very cool. CloudWatch does a lot of magic things. The second thing that I noted for CloudWatch is if you want to create a custom dashboard with metrics from different regions, detailed monitoring needs to be enabled. It's not basic monitoring, it's detailed monitoring. And then any IAM users that have permissions to call these two APIs, which is put metric data and put dashboard, can create customized dashboards. We can take a deeper look into the link if you want. To view metrics at 1 minute intervals, we need to turn on detailed monitoring, but because by default it's a 5 minute interval at CloudWatch. So all of these, if you have like experiences with CloudWatch, like I log into my AWS console like every single day, multiple times a day. So whenever I need to debug, say the throughput of my DynamoDB table. If I'd like to see the latency, any deadlocks of my RDS, I need to go to CloudWatch. I need to see any dead letter queue, any messages in my dead letter queue of my SQS, I need to go to CloudWatch. It's just a very natural. You will observe that by default, it's 5 minute interval in CloudWatch. So if you want to get more granular insights, you have to turn on detailed monitoring, which is going to give you 1 minute interval. One more thing that's new to me is how do you collect the data? So nowadays, a lot of companies, for various reasons, they don't migrate all of their data centers, all of their services, all of their applications, all the way to the cloud. 100%. So it's often operating in a hybrid environment. But still, if you have AWS services, you have CloudWatch to monitor your services in the AWS cloud, right? When you are used to that, you want to have the same metrics, the same UI, the same granularity of your metrics on your on-premise servers. So in that case, how can you do? You can do that. Absolutely, it's achievable. How can you do that? You can just install CloudWatch agents. More details about CloudWatch agents is that which protocol do you use? For Windows and Linux servers, you can use statsd, this protocol. And there's another protocol called clactd. This one is only used for Linux servers only. Something very cool to learn. Lastly, about CloudWatch is that you can monitor AWS resources in multiple regions using a single CloudWatch dashboard. So if you ever configure a CloudWatch dashboard yourself, you know that you can do this. It's pretty straightforward. But if you have never experienced that, it could be kind of tough. Then one more last thing is how can you show, for example, there's such a use case. If you want to show your backend stats at 8 a.m. Every single day, how would you do that? You can configure that by using CloudWatch Events Console. You can create a rule that's scheduled to use a cron expression and configure the target as the Lambda function. Remember, the key is to create a rule instead of an event. We cannot really understand this node without any pre-context. But basically, you want to understand CloudWatch events, rules, and how do you integrate with Lambda function. The last one I would like to talk about today is AWS Service Catalog. What is this? This is a service that allows IT admins to create, manage, and distribute catalogs of approved products to end users who can then access the products they need in the personalized portal. So why do we need AWS Service Catalog? This is something that allows you to centrally manage commonly deployed IT services and helps you achieve consistent governance and meet your compliance requirements. Remember, the exam that we're taking is SysOps admin, so this service does come in handy, absolutely, while enabling users to quickly deploy only the approved IT services they need. This is why. One keynote to remember is that for AWS Service Catalog, it is a proactive approach. This is in sharp contrast to AWS Config, which is a reactive approach. For example, it's going to check whether certain tags have been properly applied to your EC2 instances, right? But only when your EC2 instances have been created, instantiated, and have been running, AWS Config could check that, right? So that's reactive. But for AWS Service Config, this is a proactive approach, which is going to ensure that tags are attached to the resources during creation. If it doesn't meet the requirement, it's not going to let it finish. Today, I only have time to cover 6 of the main topics, 6 of the AWS services that I learned during preparation for this SysOps exam. I have many more services I have many more notes to share for other services. So subscribe to my channel. So if you feel this is something that beneficial for you, or this is something that you feel useful, please consider to subscribe. I'll have another video to follow up to talk about all of the other services, or at least share the notes that I made during my preparation for this exam. That's all for today's video. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. This is all of the 6 AWS services that I was able to organize my notes and do and record a video for. There's still quite a few notes that I don't have time to organize the notes to put a video. So I'll have another follow-up video as part 2 of how to prepare for AWS certification exam. So if you find this video helpful for you, please consider to subscribe and stay tuned for the part 2 of this video. That's it for today's video. Good luck with your effort and preparation for the upcoming exams. I'll see you guys in the next one.